Hello and welcome back. I'm Maggie, the host of our Neighbors Helping Neighbors podcast from Father Joe's Villages, a beacon of hope for 75 years. This is a continuing series of podcasts exploring homelessness, its causes, and solutions. If you'd like to learn more about our mission, please visit neighbor.org and follow us on social media at Father Joe's Villages. Today, we will be focusing on our Meeting Basic Needs pillar of care, particularly our food services program. We will also be discussing our upcoming Thanksgiving Day 5K presented by Aya Healthcare. Speaking of Aya, we have distinguished guests with us today, Jamie Williford and Sarah Lilliot. And as always, with me is my co-host, President and CEO of Father Joe's Villages, Deacon Jim Vargas. Hello, everyone.
It's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having us. Of course. So I'd like to start with you, Jamie. Please just introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about your role at Aya.
Sure. I'm Jamie Williford. I am the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility. And what that means is I take care of all of our community support. So I help coordinate our volunteer efforts, things like the 5K, which we're so excited to participate in next week, and all of our employee volunteers, and like I said, and our giving, our support of nonprofit organizations.
Wonderful.
Sarah?
All very important work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
And I'm Sarah. I am a travel nurse. I have been with Aya Healthcare for a little over 2 years now. And I have just really enjoyed all the opportunities that have come with being a travel nurse.
Wonderful.
Well, and before I tell you a little bit about Father Joe's Villages, I want to thank Aya Healthcare. This is the second year in a row that you'll be sponsoring, being the presenting sponsor.
Third, I think.
Oh, it's the third.
It's the third.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize about that. It's the third. No, thank you so very much. I mean, it shows your commitment to us, and you guys are just great. And it is a wonderful event. We're going to talk about it a little bit later in the show. But as Maggie mentioned, I'm Deacon Jim, and I'm blessed to be the president and CEO of Father Joe's Villages. It's always good for me to give a brief overview of what we do. And just very briefly, because we're very comprehensive, as Sarah and you and Jamie know, we're blessed to have health as an important pillar of care. And because without your health, really, how can you work on anything else? And so health is very important. Primary care that we administer, we have behavioral health care through our clinic there within the center, which helps with substance use challenges. It helps with mental health challenges. We have a dental clinic as well. We have a street health team. You mentioned traveling, being a traveling nurse, how important that is, because our population, 30% of them don't access medicine in a traditional way. So we have to go out and administer street health care right there on the streets, on the curbs. And so that's very, very important. And then the upcoming detox center that we'll be opening come the beginning of next year. It's going to be a life-changing event for those who we serve and also for the community as a whole. So many people, 40% of those who are homeless are mired in some level of substance use. And so as a result, they need the detoxification, they need the recovery beds that we'll be offering as well. That's healthcare. But then we have our kids. And our kids come to us academically, emotionally, socially delayed, and we know they will be the future adults who are homeless unless we mitigate their circumstances. So we work with them and we work with their families to build familial relationships and bonds, which will last a lifetime. So that's incredibly important. Like with all of us, employment is important because that brings along income, and with income is self-sufficiency. It's the same for those who we serve. And so we have different vocational training programs such as culinary arts or forklifting, security guard training, facilities, property manager, we can go on and on, right? So that's an important element as well. Of course, we have shelters. We have hundreds of shelter beds each and every single day. And yet that's not a home, that's a stopgap. We are housing developers, and that's a home, right? That's what breaks the cycle of homelessness when we provide these units, these apartments for individuals. So we build housing. That's an important element as well. So that's a quick overview of what we do, and it's the comprehensiveness of our programs that holistically make a difference in the lives of those who we're blessed to serve. So that's Father Joe's Villages.
Thank you all. I appreciate the introductions. I want to stay with you first, Deacon Jim, for a second here. We're going to talk a lot. You just gave us a nice overview of our comprehensive services, but I want you to tell our audience about what meeting basic needs means, that pillar of care, specifically as it relates to our food services program.
Things that most of us take for granted. And unfortunately, those on the streets can't. And food is one of them. I mean, again, I mentioned if you don't have your health, how can you work on other things? Well, if you don't have food, it's going to lead to poor health, right? Especially think about kids. How are kids going to learn in school if they're malnutritioned? It's just not possible. And you being a nurse, you know how important that is, right? So the almost 1 million meals that we serve day in and day out, 365 days a year, 2 dining rooms, breakfast, lunch, and dinner are absolutely critical. In addition to that, we'll have a food pantry. This is Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, in fact. And I was just out on the line out here in our warehouse, handing out bags to hundreds of cars that were driving up, I should say. And, we're giving them the staples that they need, so that whether it's produce, right, whether it's cheese, we were handing out cheese. We were handing out so many things that we, again, take for granted, but are so very, very important as far as providing a balanced diet and the nutrition that's needed by all family members, right? So that they don't become ill and they can prosper. The line has been growing. The food insecurity here in San Diego is great. There is a statistic out there that 25% of those who are on San Diego have some level of nutrition insecurity. Right? So these are the different ways. There's a couple of different ways that we fill that need, so that they don't have to wonder whether they should fill up the gas tank with gasoline or feed their family. Because if they don't fill up that gas tank, then they can't get to work, which means they're going to lose their jobs, right? And so, do they pay their rent or feed the family? So we help them so that they at least can provide the food, and then they can work on the rest, right? So.
Deacon, you mentioned meeting the need. And Sarah, I want to go to you, because a big part of being a nurse, is meeting people where they are and going to where, the need is. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a travel nurse, and specifically here in San Diego?
Yes, absolutely. So with travel nursing, there is all types of nursing that you can do, but I specifically do pediatric ICU. I've always done pediatrics ever since I became a nurse, and I cannot imagine doing anything else. And so many great things come from that. And there's also a lot of, hardships that these children face that you are right there kind of on the front line, helping them deal with, helping them navigate. Of course, their parents, helping parents navigate not only just healthcare, but really every aspect of life that has been affected by this child's immediate and or emergent need for receiving healthcare. And it definitely plays homelessness, but specifically, malnutrition and very limited access to food plays such a large role in the entire picture of a child's health. If a child is hungry, they cannot focus. And if they cannot focus, how are they going to sit in a classroom and learn so that they can grow and develop and become, contributing members of society one day? And so really being able to address the need for food and being able to address malnutrition and hunger concerns, really I feel like is just an extremely important part of the foundation for ensuring that a child is going to be able to grow and prosper both physically and mentally.
I mentioned you've been a pediatric nurse for a while. Where? I know you're with Aya now. But
Yes, I've been with Aya for a little over 2 years. I'm originally from Florida, but thanks to Aya, I have now worked in 6 different states. That includes Florida, Virginia, Arizona, Colorado, Washington, and then now California. I'm currently at a local children's hospital in San Diego, and I have greatly just enjoyed every opportunity that has come with this. San Diego itself has been absolutely amazing. That enough is, I don't know how I'm ever going to leave. But really being able to kind of dive into the needs of these children and of the community, and being able to really be a part of the whole picture of these children's health, and ensuring that there are proper resources in place so that, upon discharge from the hospital, these kids are set up for success. Their families are set up for success. The parents have what they need to provide the children with what they need.
That's great. You mentioned local children's hospital, Rady's?
Yes.
Yeah, right. I've been on the foundation board for many, many years. That's a great place. And like you said, and the local and the NICU.
Yes.
What you guys do, you nurses do in the NICU is miraculous. It's great.
Yes, Rady is absolutely a powerhouse institution for pediatric care. And it has been such a privilege to be a part of that and of their, just institution.
Well,
we appreciate the work you do very much. We need more people like you. We need nurses. We need that. Jamie, I want to go to you. I would love it if you could give us, just a brief history of Aya Healthcare and really what your mission is all about.
Yeah, we've been around about as long as your 5K, actually. And we are headquartered here in San Diego in Cerrado Valley. Our CEO is actually a UCSD alum. but about half of our folks, our corporate folks, are in San Diego. So this is home for us. And yeah, we just believe that every person deserves the best possible care. So, why do we support community organizations? Why do we support your 5K? Just the work that you do in combating food insecurity and making sure individuals and families have the food that they need. It's so important. It's vital. And, we're proud to support it. And it's, food security is one of our pillars that we, support. We also, Safe Shelter is another, which is also, of course, deeply integrated into your mission. So really everything you do is we love to support. We also help with access to education for the underserved, of course, access to healthcare. We're, health organization, and just general equity. So we're so happy to work with you guys for our 3rd annual time at this 5K.
Yeah, it's going to
That's
be
why
fun.
our partnership is so important because our missions are so much alike.
Yes.
Which is really great. Yeah.
Deacon, we know that, over 10,000 individuals are experiencing homelessness in San Diego, and half of whom are unsheltered. Can you talk a little bit more about the scene, on the streets daily, and specifically as it relates to hunger? Someone that doesn't have a home, they're also not getting their 3 meals a day.
That's right.
It's devastating.
That's right. And it's actually been getting worse because this is the first year in I don't know how many years where it's more than half of those who are homeless are on the streets, 60% now. So the situation is getting worse. And that's a reflection of the fact that people who have been hanging on by their fingernail, as an example, inflation is really impacting them. The things that we don't particularly care for, paying more for eggs and milk and the like, but we're able to do it. But they're those who are literally hanging on by their fingernails, and these types of price increases is just throwing them onto the streets, right? And so, yes, we're seeing more of we have the 4th largest homeless population in the entire United States, 10,605 in the latest point in time count. And as I mentioned, 60% of them are on the streets. So think about the statistic that I mentioned before, that 1 in 4 San Diegans in general suffer some level of nutrition insecurity. If you think about the homeless population, that's exacerbated. And when you think about that, more kids are falling onto the streets, and families as well. That is just an indication that these kids are just not getting the nutrition that they need. And as a result, they fall behind in school. You mentioned, how can you focus? That's exactly right. How can you learn? How can you really prosper? How can you advance in your education, as an example? And so the support lines that we give them through our various programs, I mentioned the Therapeutic Child Care Center, and the meals as well, it makes a world of a difference in their lives. So, and that is, and that's why food is just extremely important in everybody's life. So, and I think you're noticing it at Aya Healthcare too, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is something that we've supported for years and years, but we've seen the increase in need. And we want to continue our support, of course, and increase that. So yes, agree. It's unfortunate, but we're hoping that we can do our part.
Yeah.
And you are doing your part. You absolutely are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Deacon, we talk a lot about numbers sometimes, and it can feel daunting, but I'm wondering, Sarah, if you maybe could share a few positive stories. When we talk about homelessness, it can just, sometimes you can feel the energy drop a little. And I think it's important to know that there are successes happening. And if you could maybe even share some success as it relates to malnutrition or, anything we're talking about today.
Yes, absolutely. I would say a positive from that is being able to see a child that experiences malnutrition and does not have access to proper food supply, being able to see them go from not understanding that they can order anything on the food menu, or not understanding that, hey, you're at a hospital, you're at a safe place, and we're going to provide for your needs, to having that confidence and understanding, and even being able to educate them on nutrition and on proper food choices, and just seeing that growth and seeing them understand you just can't even describe it, because it is just such a positive thing. And I'm just so fortunate to be able to play such a role in this process. But once we, admit a child, for example, with malnutrition, we give them the fluids and the medications and the interventions that's needed. And it's very refreshing, because it is something that you truly get to see progress and change in. And by the time that child is at discharge or at the state, to be able to be discharged, it's almost like a different child. It's almost like a whole different patient. And, whenever their spirits change, when their health improves, their parents do too, because as parents, I mean, that's all the parents want is for their kiddo to be better and to be healthy and to be thriving. And whenever you see that positive change in the child, you also see that positive change in the parent. And, getting to that point is made possible by, organizations such as this that provide parents with resources that they need, that provide food, that, can help with even the homeless population and help with getting them off of the streets. And that is just so vital in the entire picture of care for the child.
Yeah. We see, I mentioned the line for the food pantry, the car line. We've been in talking because you get to know different people there who come every week, actually, right? And thank God we're able to help them out in their situation. But remember speaking with a woman who if there's a multi-generational situation in her particular home, and we have so many of those, right? Who come, so it's not just one generation. It's a number of generations, and so a number of adults, a number of children, all in one household, right? And just trying to make ends meet, and we're finding more and more of that, right? So that. You have the older adults, the seniors. That's the seniors, if they're not eating well, how it impacts as far as hypertension, as far as diabetes is concerned. There's so many things that it leads to on the health side. And then you have the children at the other end, who you just mentioned as well, and then the ones in the middle. Yeah. So these are things that a lot of times we don't think about, but they're individuals who are living with a lot of folks within their own respective.
Yeah. And these impacts that you're referring to, multi-generational, those impacts don't happen unless we have the support of, community members or corporations like Aya. So Jamie, tell us why you decided a couple years back to be the presenting sponsor of our Thanksgiving Day 5K and really what that day means to you.
Yeah, I mean, our company culture really is rooted in giving back. Mm-hmm. Our employees care deeply about, as you can see, about the communities that they serve. They want to help, and what you do to provide food, for people who are facing food insecurity, it's so necessary. Food, safe shelter, those are basic human rights. Mm-hmm. And, we want to support that. We want people to have access. And and it's also just, on the fun side, it's a great day. We have a great time. We've had a couple hundred employees come out the last few years.
That's great.
We're going to have a couple hundred more coming out again on Thanksgiving. And we have a great time at the event.
Sarah, I'm told it's your first time this year.
Yes. It's my first time in San Diego and my first time being present for all of the festivities. And again, just so happy to be a part of it. It's just such a refreshing event. And, it's always refreshing to see two organizations, or a corporation and an organization rather, be able to come together and really work together to have such positive outcomes.
You're going to love it. It's a lot of fun, as Jamie just mentioned. Now, are you guys walking it? You're running it? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, we had some people signed up for the timed run. That will not be me. I actually have not run. I've usually done a few interviews and things that are fun, your little hot mics.
The hot mic, that's right. That's right.
And we ran through the crowd last year, but only for a short time.
Right. No, it's fun, and that's the thing. And by the way, we're planning over 8,500 this year.
Yeah, I heard.
It's a record.
Amazing.
It's great. A record. It's the 23rd in San Diego. It's the largest. I like to think it's the most fun. It really is. Because people come in, you have the hardcore runners, as you mentioned. That's okay. There's a place for them. But then I think, I don't know if the majority, but so many hundreds are there just to have some fun, just to feel a sense of being involved with an organization that's making a difference in people's lives. And that's what it's all about. So, they'll come in, as you saw last year and in the prior years, they'll dress up their little dogs like turkeys or whatever. It's just a lot of fun. And strollers. Then we have activities for the kids. And the adults we have a beer garden for the adults. And you remember that, Jamie? And so people like that as well. It's meant for people to have a good time in the home. And by 10 or so, that's about it, right? And then people can go home, prepare for the evening meal. And when they sit around their own table, they can feel good about having done something for individuals who can't necessarily sit around a table, right? And provide the nutrition that they need, because the proceeds for that event, it's all to help fund the service or the meal services at the village. It's really great.
Yeah, starting your day off like that is it really sets the tone for the whole day, and it just makes you feel good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you can burn the calories even before you consume them. This is a good thing. A good thing.
Deacon, you painted a nice picture of the day, but can you tell us a little bit about the history of this event and really what the day is all about?
Sure. Well, it's about giving back, right? It's about celebrating your own blessings, if you think about it, right? When we are a blessed people, in this time of year, people recognize that, right? When you get into Thanksgiving and then into the other holidays and Christmas and so forth. And being blessed doesn't mean it's absent of challenges. That's the case. We all have challenges, right? But we recognize that there are people who are much more challenged than we. And so that's a way of just, giving back in a sense. And it goes back, as I mentioned, this is the 23rd year. So Father Joe Carroll, back in trying, as we do as well, we're trying to come up with ways to engage the community. And he thought, well, you know what? Let's get them to run on Thanksgiving morning, right? And get them to run Thanksgiving morning, but running for a cause, right? Running for hope, as we call it, run for hope. And so that was the genesis of it. And over the years, it started with a couple of hundreds, and now we're in the thousands, as I mentioned, right? So, and we have our eye on 10,000 before too long. That'll be great. Huh?
That would be great.
But it's great. I love as I stand up on the podium looking out at Cabrillo Bridge, right? Because it is at Balboa Park, and seeing just thousands of people just lined up there. It just warms my heart to see that, right? It's a great event.
Yeah. It really does feel like the place to be in San Diego.
That's
Thanksgiving morning.
That's exactly right.
You mentioned the holidays and giving back, but we also know that holidays can be pretty isolating, especially for individuals experiencing homelessness or individuals that are struggling, with their health. Sarah, I'm curious if you can, kind of describe what you see around the holidays as a nurse.
Yes. It's always refreshing to work the holidays and to be, a part, just play a role in it for the children. But it's also a little heart-wrenching because a lot of these kids that are in the hospital, I would even venture to say most of the kids in the hospital, we're not planning on spending Thanksgiving in the hospital. We're not planning on spending Christmas Eve and Christmas and celebrating New Year's in the hospital. But it's the very real reality for them and, of course, their families. And it can be very disheartening to see not only the patient that is, struggling with some type of healthcare issue, to have to be, miss out on all the normal festivities and the normal things that come with the holidays, but also their parents and their siblings. It really just changes the dynamics for everyone. And whenever malnutrition has a role in the child's healthcare issue around the holidays, I feel like it just makes it that much more difficult, But on the bright side, like I mentioned earlier, you really get to see such a good progress and, just the child to really heal and grow. And anytime the child starts to do better, of course, the parents start to do better. And even the siblings, even the younger siblings will pick up on, okay, the mood and the spirit is just much higher now because this child is doing so much better. But we do as much as we can. And I can speak, for Rady, they do a lot for these kiddos that are unfortunately in the hospital during the holidays, just to make it as normal as possible and just to provide some level of normalcy for these kids.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I want to open this one up to everyone. What can the community do to rally behind either our patients or individuals that are experiencing homelessness? I think often people are looking for ways to give back, but they just really don't know how or where to start.
I mean, donations are always great. I used to be in fundraising. Organizations do need money to provide the services that they provide. So, and volunteering, giving back. I'm sure that you guys have opportunities that people can hop in and volunteer.
Absolutely. Volunteers. I love our volunteers. We had this past year, we had over 5,000 volunteers from serving meals, right, to maybe working in our therapeutic childcare center and our health center across the board. I love our volunteers. And I always equate it to a dollar value. And this past year, we had almost $2 million worth of value in the services of our volunteers. That's a lot. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, donations, as you mentioned, Jamie, absolutely. Our life's blood, right? Most of the work we do is through the generosity of the people out there who are listening, right? Who are viewing even this podcast, right? We can't do without the donations. And in fact, about 60%, I would say, about donations or our work is done through philanthropy.
And I was really impressed with the numbers that you provided us after the 5K. I think our $50,000 donation provided over 25,000 meals, so 25,250 or more. So that's really impressive what you can do with the funds.
Yeah, it's incredible what we can do. How much we can do with so little as far as serving nutritious meals. I always marvel at it as well. Our chefs and what they do in the kitchens as well. And then also the thrift stores. We have thrift stores, and so we have 4 thrift stores throughout the city, and people can either donate and items that are still usable, but they don't need them anymore. We have sent out trucks on set appointments each day, and furniture, cars, boats. I mean, whatever you want to donate. That's what we do is we either auction them off or sell them at our thrift stores. And so it's a win-win. So you can be donating to the thrift stores, but then you can also be buying at the thrift stores as well, because we have nice merchandise at good prices as well.
Yes, and I can confirm the pickups. You had my stove and my old dryer.
Did you? Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely. That was good for me too. Added. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
I think it's so important to donate your time. Traveling and having to keep belongings pretty compact. Around the holidays, I don't always have much that I travel with that I don't necessarily need anymore. But going out and selecting items, or adopting a family, or adopting a child, and being able to purchase items for them is always great. But I feel like I get just as much in return from actually donating my time. And I feel like everywhere that I've traveled to, and especially San Diego now, there's so many great opportunities with organizations such as this to really donate your time, and that makes such a difference as well. Because, for example, you have all this food donated, and you need someone to sort it, and that's where I enjoy coming in.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. In fact, we have a number of volunteers today at the food pantry. We always do. The USS Essex service individuals were there, which was always good to see. And so throughout every single week, we have various organizations who come and help us serve.
Yeah, we love our volunteers. And speaking of volunteers, next week, it's not only about the 5K. We also do our special meals again. And I know on Wednesday, you will be at the special meal. Can you talk a little bit about those celebrations, really as a way to come together and give people that community when they may not be experiencing it?
Sure. Otherwise. That's also a tradition for us as well. And it happens a number of times a year. We do it July 4th. We do it at Easter. We do it Thanksgiving. We'll do it at Christmas. And like I said, every single day we're serving meals. But on those particular days, what we do is we ratchet it up. And by ratcheting up, I mean there's music. And we have those who dress up in different costumes and the like. Feather Joe, by the way, he's our mascot.
Yeah.
And Feather Joe will be there. And there's so many people who come and volunteer, and it's not a buffet. It's more a sit down. And so those who are there will be served, and they're our guests. They're always our guests, but they'll be served at their places, and of course there'll be turkey and then cranberry and sauce and so forth and the like. And I forget how many pounds of sweet potatoes will be prepared and the like. And more than anything else is having people feel a sense of compassion, that we care for them, because we do. You mentioned community, and you mentioned before isolation. This is a time of year where especially people on the streets feel as if they're disconnected, right? And they're isolated. Maybe that no one cares for them, even their own family members, for whatever reason. And so we gather them to show them, well, we're family of sorts, right? And there is a sense of community, and you could see it. You could see in the dialogue that happens when sometimes they're meeting for the first time at the event, at the dining itself, and as you mentioned, Sarah, I guess so many volunteers who when I'm thanking them, because I'd love to thank our volunteers, I really appreciate their service. They tell me, don't thank us, don't thank me. You don't know how much it means to me, or means they bring their children.
It's so much in return.
Yeah, you do. You get a lot. So you get so much in return. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how the community can give back to Father Joe's, and I'm curious what you would say. How can people give their time to Aya, or how can they come to the hospital around this time of year and really show their support?
Like Jimmy mentioned, donations are always great, especially, like the new unused toy donations. They really go a long way. And children's hospitals, especially Rady, are great at, putting things together and ensuring that it's just a very cohesive, smooth process. And I feel like, being a part of Aya, just being employed with Aya, there's just such a feeling of just wanting to give and wanting to volunteer and wanting to be involved with, philanthropic efforts. and just to really be a part of all that Aya has to offer, all the options that or opportunities that Rady has to offer. Then of course, just being involved in the community with community organizations. It's just the time of year for giving, and I feel like you can truly feel that whenever you're being a part of those set events.
Yeah, I think for, you had asked earlier about giving back and out. I think for some of our travelers, they might be in a new city for the first time, maybe even on a holiday. And I think something like volunteering with you all, and it gives you a place to be and a sense of community, like you said. And so I think it is a wonderful opportunity for people to give back, and for, hopefully some of our travelers will be there. I know they're going to be at the 5K.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Jamie, because we do get some new people who tell us that they've done similar events elsewhere, but they've just moved into town, and they've looked us up and they heard about us, and they're coming for the first time, even though they just arrived in San Diego. But again, because they want to spend that morning doing something for others. And conversely, we get individuals who have been with us year in and year out, no longer are in town because they are now have moved away, and they come back because this has been a family tradition, right? From when the kids were young, and they've grown into the event. And so they're elsewhere, and they come back to us as well. I mean, it's incredible.
Yep, we have people doing that for the 5K.
Really? Yeah. Absolutely. It's really good.
Their tradition.
It's their tradition. That's right. That's right.
It is fun. Sarah, you mentioned you worked, is it 7 states as a travel nurse? About 7?
6. That's
6. Okay.
And counting.
I'm curious, since you just came to San Diego a couple years ago, to bring it back to homelessness, what have you been surprised to see, on the streets as well as patients? What can you speak to compared to, other places that you've lived?
It's definitely a very present issue, I feel like, and it's unfortunate to see how prevalent of an issue it is, especially locally in San Diego and in Southern California in general. There's a lot more of it than what I'm used to back home, and so it has been just a lot of realizing for me that this is a problem and this is an issue, and just how large of an issue it is. So seeing and learning about organizations such as this has been refreshing, because it is such a big need in the community. I mean, you all are serving such a great need. I mean, you're combating homelessness, and people not having access to proper food supply. And so I feel like having these type of organizations in place is absolutely just crucial to helping the homeless and to decreasing those numbers that we talked about earlier. It's a very prevalent issue, but it's also, an issue that I feel like multiple people and multiple organizations are doing the best they can to tackle and to improve this issue, and to, improve the communities in general in San Diego. So.
Out of curiosity, where in Florida?
I'm from North Florida on the Gulf Coast. It's a very, very small town.
Is it? Okay, so you don't find as much homelessness in that area, in that neck of the woods, in a sense?
No, and I think that it's probably because it's such a rural area that I'm from. You don't see quite as much homelessness in a very small town. I can count on one hand how many homeless people we would have, and it's just a different sense. It's a smaller community, so it's easier to reach the homeless population that is present, and to invite them in and to provide them resources. And then whenever you have such a large scale, San Diego is a much bigger city than the area that I'm from. It's not as easy to combat that problem, and it's not as easy to make sure that everyone is fed and everyone has a roof over their heads. It's a much more complex issue in bigger cities such as this, and so it takes bigger organizations that are organized and that have a plan, and that work together with corporations such as Aya to really help combat the homelessness and of course the food shortage for these people as well.
But yet, as you mentioned, a small town reaching out and providing the resources. In our situation, again, that's what's important as well, that we reach out and provide resources that are most effective in getting them off the streets, right? So, so that they don't. The hope is that they don't spend much time on the streets if they do fall into homelessness, because we have some who have been chronically homeless for years and years and years. On the healthcare side, oh my gosh, they have so many health issues at that point. And it's costly to the community. Obviously, it's devastating to the individuals, but it's costly to the community as well. It's important to reach out as soon as possible and provide that safety.
early intervention is key.
Yeah, Sarah, you talked a lot about seeing the progress today. And Deacon, at the beginning, we talked about meeting basic needs. One of our other pillars of care is strengthening self-sufficiency. And I want you to talk a little bit to our audience about how we can't get to that strengthening self-sufficiency phase unless we meet those basic needs, and really how homelessness and hunger are intertwined.
Right. Well, again, as I mentioned before, that, before you can get to the point of being self-sufficient, let's say focus on employment, right? And going into vocational training so that you're able to have the marketable skills to apply for jobs and secure some income. Before you can do that, you have to feel as if you're fed. I mean, if you're hungry, as an example, your time is spent on and focused on trying to get a meal, trying to not feel hungry, right? I know my wife is one who tells me that when I'm hungry, oh my gosh, I can be ornery, right? And so that's an important element. And so it is so, and then again, and if the lack of nutrition then it affects your health, then that's further exacerbates your situation. So how can you work then on being sufficient here, right? And that pillar. So we work, all our pillars work hand in hand with one another, because that's how holistically then we're able to get an individual, help them to be up on their feet and go forward. So, when again, those basic needs, and then the health aspect of it then leads to, okay, now let's focus on employment. Let's focus on those areas, education. Let's focus on what you need and the tools that you need now to be able to go forward.
Absolutely. I want to make sure we end on more of a positive note. So, Jamie, I'm wondering if you can share a favorite memory. You've been twice now to our Thanksgiving Day 5K. What are you looking forward to this year?
Three times.
Sorry.
I know.
What are you looking forward to, and what's a favorite memory?
This is not something I thought I would say, but I do love getting there early. I'm not a morning person, but I like seeing the sunrise.
Yeah.
And because I get there a little earlier than to help set up our tent and everything. I love seeing all of our team members that come out. Sometimes people I haven't seen in a while because I've worked remotely for a little while. And so, yeah, it's just great to see team members, and it's great to see how excited they are to be there. And just the huge crowd and the energy of that crowd, and how happy everyone is to get in this 5K and to be helping out the community. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Jamie likes the tiny mic interviews.
Yes. Well, I get nervous about them, just like this. But I like them. The questions are fun.
They are fun.
And we do have coffee vendors, so you can get there early.
That's right. The coffee. That's right.
Can you talk about what else people can expect to see at the 5K this year?
Well, Jamie, you mentioned sunrise. So one of my favorites is that at 6 a.m. we have a sunrise mass. And so anyone who wants to join us for that, and it's an hour, the mass itself is about 30 minutes to 40 minutes, but it starts more than an hour before the actual race starts, right? So more than enough time people can come in and really celebrate and worship, again, the blessings that we have as a result of our God, who loves us tremendously and wants the very best for us. And so that's how we set the stage for the morning, right? And of course, I love that, right? And this year, we're going to have 3 of our auxiliary bishops actually with us from the Diocese of San Diego, and it's just going to be great. So that sets the stage.
Do you have a time you're shooting for, Sarah, to finish the race by?
No, I do not. I do not. I'll probably be, hanging in the back. But, Thanksgivings have looked a little different for the past couple of years since I've started travel nursing. And travel nurses work a lot of nights and weekends and holidays. And that's part of it. And a lot of times I even look forward to that part of it. But even though Thanksgiving has looked a little bit different the past couple of years, thanks to being employed with Aya, I've had the opportunity to work at some top children's hospitals and care for some of the country's sickest kiddos. And that has just been such an amazing opportunity. And I will take that opportunity every single day over the traditional Thanksgiving that I'm used to.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate it. Living in San Diego, we've talked a lot in prior episodes, it's such an expensive city to live in. And one of the ways, Deacon, I'm hoping you can talk about is we have a pop-up store, a thrift store at the 5K. There are other ways, if you can't afford to make a financial contribution to Aya or to Father Joe's Villages, how can people get involved?
That's a great question. In fact, I made reference to our thrift stores. At the 5K itself, We're going to have a pop-up store. You mentioned that. It's basically, it looks like a mini thrift store in a sense, and we have merchandise that we make available there. So it's an opportunity right there after the race if people just want to pick up a few items that would be great. Also, this year we're going to have one of our very attractive bins. They're large bins that we actually have deployed in various places throughout the city, churches and schools and so forth. We're going to have one there. So we encourage people. I would encourage people if they're coming in for the race, maybe bring in some clothes you no longer need, or some shoes you no longer need but can still be worn and they're still in fairly good shape, right? And these are items that you can put them in the bin, right? And you're there, so you can come in loaded, but know that you'll be leaving, or you're having left those items behind, and those are items that again can benefit the work that we do as well. So another opportunity, so many opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And those donations give people dignity. It really goes a long way. Some people that can't afford to have clothes on their back that are on the street.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Is there anything particular you need, or is it most just any in good quality clothing? And
we need everything. And in this time of year, actually, so thank you, Jamie, for asking. This time of year, because it is getting colder. We are in New York, but it gets really chilly at night, and if you're on the streets, right, and then if it's windy, and if it's rain, it makes it even worse. And so sweats, sweatpants, sweat tops, socks, caps, right, to keep the heat in, and the like. These are all things that are useful to us. I mean, we have so many little children who we serve, and people recognize that we have babies. I mean, we have actual babies that are born to individuals who are at our village. Comes time for them to give birth, they go off to a hospital, have the child, and come back within a couple of days with the child. It's just that our village is their first home, that child, right? And so diapers, we go through diapers, all right? And so there isn't anything that you can that you have in mind that can benefit us, right? So across the board, yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
I do. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the two of you at the 5K.
Can't wait. Absolutely.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining the conversation today. Father Joe's Villages has been a beacon of hope for 75 years. We are not just a service provider, but a movement and a catalyst for change. The face of homelessness is changing, and Father Joe's Villages is adapting to meet the moment. We look forward to seeing you all bright and early this Thursday on Thanksgiving morning in Balboa Park. We'll see you next time. How will you get involved? Join us and take action for our neighbors in need. Father Joe's Villages is rebuilding lives, and you can make a difference. Whether it's through cash donations, volunteering your time, contributing home goods or clothing, shopping at our thrift stores or online, or participating in planned giving, there are numerous ways to get involved. Take action today at neighbor.org, because together we are all neighbors helping neighbors.